Welcome to another episode of the Positively Insane Podcast with your host and spirit guide, Kevin Alexander.
What's up, man? Fucking episode number 11. Keeping them going. So, for those of you who may or may not know, episode 9, I had my first guest spot, Thomas Kashadi. I had a good time hanging out with him and, doing my very first Joe Rogan style podcast where I had somebody else that I was talking to and not really interviewing, but just kind of like having a conversation with him. And it was a pretty cool format. I liked the back and forth. Definitely gonna do it again. Want to try and get other people on the show too. As of right now, I'm focusing strictly on people who can do a podcast in person with me, because I don't buy the fastest internet in the world. It's kind of shitty. So I don't trust it to do, like live streaming anymore, or have somebody call me over Wi-Fi. So either somebody's going to have to call me directly on my phone, which I don't currently pay for minutes because I don't need them, or they got to be in person. And I prefer the in person just because the audio quality is better than over the phone. So that's definitely something I'm going to do again. But while I was over at Thomas's house, one of the things that he had mentioned that he felt would increase my audience in one way or another, in some shape or form, is by talking about current events. And it's something I've thought a lot about, and I tend to avoid it for the most part because I don't want people to feel like I'm just kind of piggybacking on a lot of the things going on. There's a tragedy in Venezuela, let's talk about that and see if I can get people to listen. You know what I mean? That kind of thing. It just seems, current events just seem too easy for me. I shouldn't say too easy for me. It just seems like too easy of a topic, of a subject matter. It's like at any given day I can look on the internet and find something to talk about that I don't necessarily have a very deep education on or very strong personal opinions about. So I tend not to talk about current events too much. When Chester Bennington committed suicide, I wanted to do a podcast about that. That was before I really got the whole relaunch going, moving forward. And I was going to make a podcast about that. It was going to be the very first podcast that I had done in the relaunch. And I did a practice run, and I didn't really like where I was going with it. I didn't want the very first episode to be about suicide and depression. And so I scrapped it just to have the very first episode be about someone putting a knife to my throat. So I wanted the first episode to be lighthearted and shit like that, but it just didn't turn out to be that way. But so I have been thinking about current event topics, and I had been planning on talking about the whole NFL taking a knee, Colin Kaepernick, and all that shit. But to be honest, I don't have a lot of strong opinions on it, and I kind of covered my viewpoints on the matter a little bit when I was doing episodes with Thomas. Again, those are episode 9. You can find them on YouTube, as well as my podcast page on Facebook. It's a three-part episode. Each segment's like 43 minutes in length, I guess. So you can check that out if you haven't yet. But then fucking Las Vegas happened last night, right? And if you don't know what I'm talking about, you don't spend a lot of time on social media or watching the news, so bravo. But yeah, man, so I guess there was a mass shooting. Apparently 50 dead, 400 injured is the last number that I saw. Some white guy, apparently he was a Muslim convert. I don't know. I tend not to trust that shit too fully, you know. Yeah, I just, there's a lot of things I don't trust, and there's a lot of things that I question, and I won't take things to heart just because some form of authority told me that this is what happened. So I don't know the scenario. I don't know anything about the guy. I haven't done my research. All I know is last night videos were popping up, and it was crazy, man. I only watched one or two of them, and as far as I could tell, nobody got shot in the videos, but it was mind-blowing to see that number of people. And this isn't anywhere else in the world, right? This is right here in my own backyard. And it was almost like watching a movie. It was just fucking crazy. I mean, hundreds of people running for their lives, and you hear fucking gun blasts and shit going in the background, pop 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 pop, and you know he's shooting at somebody. You just don't know who it is. You can't tell where it's coming from, and just everyone's running in hysteria. There's a couple people that are just like, fuck it, I'm gonna lay down on the ground, see what happens. You know, I don't want to get shot. And it's crazy shit, and that's all I can really say about it. Is it's fucking crazy, right? You know, this kind of thing happens in our country all the time. It happens around the world all the time, but it's becoming very commonplace in America. And then, I mean, mass shootings have been a thing for a while, right? I mean, you had that whole term or phrase, going postal, that's been around my entire lifetime. Going postal, you know, that's apparently was supposed to be, you know, a post office worker just losing his shit and going in and shooting a bunch of people. And then it morphed into school shootings, which have then morphed into public mass shootings, which has always been a thing, but, you know, they're getting higher and higher numbers, and they're using deadlier and deadlier weapons, and it's kind of a rough topic for me, because here I am at a point in my life where I feel more and more vulnerable and at risk from threats of violence. And, well, I mean, just the whole thing with my neighbor putting a knife to my throat and shit like that, it has completely affected my comfort level and my sense of well-being and my sense of safety as I walk down the street of the same town I've been living in for the last, you know, half a decade. I don't feel safe anymore. And it's ridiculous. And so owning a handgun has been something I've thought about for a few years. My mom bought her first pistol a few years ago, and it's been something that I've thought about for a while. And so this whole mass shooting shit, you know, it all boils down to a couple of things. It boils down to people wanting to talk about gun control and all that shit, which is literally the same fucking thing people have talked about after every single one of these things. Nothing's being done, nothing is changing, nothing is working. And I personally don't believe that really strict gun control is necessarily the answer. I don't have the answer. I don't know what the answer is. But I sincerely fear the day where my government tells me I can't own a weapon. I can't own a gun. Because our country is not at a point where we can make that work. I don't trust our government enough for me to put my safety completely in their hands. I just don't. And at the same time, none of these tragedies have directly affected me. So I can't say from the perspective of, someone who's lost a family member or a loved one in one of these tragedies, because I've become incredibly numb to the whole thing. I mean, we all see it every day. We all hear about it every day. These things, it's almost like they're not real to a certain degree if you haven't had to suffer the consequences of these things. Like it for somebody like me, it all boils down to a political discussion that somebody wants to make and a fucking meme on Facebook. Pray for Vegas, pray for Paris, pray for Mexico. Let's all fucking pray for something, right? Because prayers, that's the answer. Everyone wants to feel like, everyone wants to feel like a good person at the end of the day, which I get, but I mean, empty Facebook posts about praying for a tragedy or victims of a tragedy. What is that even? That ain't shit. It's not shit. So I don't do it. I don't participate in those posts. But it's scary. It is scary, man. These things are getting bigger and crazier, and it really makes you think. I've been to Vegas once before, so that's really the only connection I have with this scenario. Is that's a place I have been to. I haven't been there since I was 16, but I was there once. I walked on those streets once, and there's a very high possibility that I was in some of these areas, or in these, area where most people were shot. There's a very high possibility I was there at one point in my life. So that's a little bit crazy, right? And I don't know, man. I guess I don't have a lot to say on it. Other than the fact that it's scary, but at the same time, it's like I hate to say it, and it's not because I'm a heartless motherfucker. It's not because I genuinely have no empathy, but I'm just at a point in my life where I just don't care anymore. And I'm not the only one. I know I'm not the only one, because I see a shitload of posts on Facebook that are very similar to what I'm saying. And it's not that people just don't give a shit, but we just don't know what to do about it. It's such a commonplace thing, and literally nothing has helped it. We just accept it now. It's a thing. And I don't know about anybody else, but I get real tired of hearing about it. I to this day, and again, no disrespect to the people who lost their lives, either in the attack itself, or from cancer, or complications, years later after the fact. But like 9/11, man, I'm so sick of fucking hearing it. I'm so sick of hearing it. I was on that bandwagon for a long time, and it just gets, it's now to the point where 9/11 is literally just, all it is anymore is it's a tool of propaganda. It's all it is. Whether you believe it was an inside job, or there's this massive conspiracy, surrounding it, or if you're just strictly one of those people who wants to, every 9/11, have a Facebook memorial, never forget kind of thing. to me, it's old, it's played out, and it's just I don't know the proper way to explain it. To me, it just feels like they're milking a tragedy that just needs to be laid to rest. Stop fucking milking it. Stop milking it. Stop using this to sell your fucking 9/11 memorabilia or sell your American flags. Just stop. None of us are going to forget that it happened. Not in our lifetime. We don't need a yearly reminder. I don't need to feel like a piece of shit every September 11th because I didn't sit down and reflect upon the tragedy. Same goes for all these mass shootings. It's like, yes, they are important. They need to be discussed. They need to be talked about. But they don't need to be shoved down our throats on a daily basis. Like with fear-mongering tactics and shit like that. I don't. To this day, it blows my mind that anybody even watches the news anymore. I mean, I think if you watch the news on a regular basis, you must be addicted to that shit. You must be. First of all, the majority of it's bullshit, and the rest of it is tragedy. And if you're into that, if you're genuinely into that, you might want to reevaluate the kind of person you are as a human being. Because it makes no sense why. It's fucked up, and it's bullshit, and every so often we're hit with one of these things. I don't even like to use the word tragedy anymore because it's such a cliched term. This happens so much that the word tragedy to me feels cliched. It feels fake. It feels empty and like it's like it's just a word, a word used for propaganda purposes. And I don't know what to think anymore, man. I don't know what to think. How am I supposed to know what's real and what's a fucking false flag, what's not? So I'm just at a point where unless it relates to my life specifically, I just don't have the time or the patience or the energy to give as much of a fuck as I used to. Because I used to, every one of these things, man, I used to really put in more empathy and energy, and I would spend countless hours trying to debate people online about this or that, whether it was fucking gun control or fucking mental health, shit, and what I thought would solve the problem or what they thought would solve the problem or why I thought their fucking solution was outrageous or fucking blah blah, you know what I mean? I just don't have the time or the energy or the desire to do that anymore because I simply just don't give a fuck, and I think that's a pretty common mindset throughout America, at least throughout the Americans that I associate with, and I don't have a super huge circle, but I talk my social circle, and I've said this multiple times, it's all on Facebook. So all of my friends are scattered around the country. Some of us are like-minded, some of us are totally fucking different, and that's why it works. I surround myself with people who have a lot of differing opinions because I believe in critical thinking. It's essential, and you can't be a critical thinker when you surround yourself with people who completely agree with you. You just can't. Some of my fucking best friends appreciate that, and I appreciate it too. Like, if somebody posts something, I'm not gonna fucking attack them, but I will play devil's advocate, and I will challenge why they feel the way they feel. And I appreciate my friends who do that to me as well, because that's genuinely the only way I know of to grow into a better thinker, a more critical thinker. Question everything. You know what I mean? Literally question everything. And especially yourself, man. Whatever if you have a strong emotional reaction to something, no matter what that strong emotional reaction is, or what it is that you have a strong emotional reaction towards, you should ask yourself why you feel that way. No matter what it is, whether it's something that you get really angry about, or something that really touches your heart, you know, you should ask yourself why it is you have this reaction that you have. Because a lot of the times, having a strong emotional reaction to something without understanding why can be incredibly unhealthy. It can be incredibly destructive, especially if it's an anger reaction. You know, you have a strong dislike or disgust or hatred of something. And if you don't know why, if you haven't analyzed that to the point of understanding yourself better, you know, and especially if once you have analyzed it to the point of understanding yourself better, you may no longer want to have those strong emotional reactions to these particular subjects or topics or whatever it is that you're reacting to. I mean, that's something that I have worked on a lot. You know, there are things that I used to just fuck that or fuck this, you know, whatever it is, until I've forced myself to sit down and analyze, why am I being such a douche about this? You know, why am I so mad about this? You know, or why do I love this so much? You know, and because I'll go the opposite way too with things that I really like, or feelings that make me feel really good, things that make me feel really good, I will fucking cling to. And sometimes to the point of it being unhealthy. And especially if it's another person in my life, you know, in the past, there have been people that made me feel good about myself, and I clung to that to the point of it being unhealthy, and it damaged the relationship, and you know, it blinded me to a lot of things that were already unhealthy and damaging, and I magnified those things by ignoring them to the point where I had to face reality and, you know, tear the metaphorical band-aid off and just fucking deal with the situation. So, I mean, I'm a firm believer, when you have strong emotional reactions to things, you should always ask yourself why. You should always question everything, especially yourself. If you're ever at the point where you trust yourself unconditionally in every aspect of life, you're doing something wrong. I mean, you should definitely have a strong sense of trust in who you are. Trust yourself for sure. You need that. But you also need to make sure you have certain checks and balances built into the system in order to remain a well-rounded human being. Otherwise, you know, you're just going to go off the deep end. If you have nothing in place, you know, if you don't have that checks and balances system in place, you're just going to run until the wheels fall off in whatever direction that you're going, and chances are you're going to go too far in that direction, and you're going to find yourself in an unhealthy situation, or unhealthy position, or you're going to become an unhealthy individual. You know, I don't really know where I'm running with this, so I guess I'm going to fucking kind of move on to the next topic at hand, which has been work. I'm currently looking for a new job. I was working, I'm still not going to say the name of the place because I don't want to completely throw them all under the bus, but I've been working in the fast food industry, and man, I don't know, this might have to be, I got 20 minutes, so I'll just make sure I wrap it up in 20 minutes. Basically, it wasn't a terrible place to work, right? It was a job. It's what I needed at that point in my life. I needed a certain amount of responsibility to hold on to, you know, something to keep me going in the right direction, in a positive direction. And working at this place was definitely that for a couple of months. And then it got out of hand. This last summer, a lot of people quit, and I worked for a month straight without a day off. And then when I finally started getting days off, it was like one a week, or one here and then 5 days later, or some shit like that. And it just, to me, my personal time is extremely important. It's extremely valuable to me. I don't give a shit that I don't have a life. I don't give a shit that I don't have a family. I don't give a shit that I don't do anything but, podcast and spend time on Facebook and work on my writing. I mean, that's my life. And that's incredibly valuable to me. And I'm the kind of person that I need time to recharge. I need that fucking weekend to recharge. I'll meditate, whatever bullshit happened throughout the week that got to me or caused an emotional reaction in me, I'll meditate on those things at the end of the week, on the weekend. And meditation helps me phenomenally. It's a fantastic tool, but I only do it on my days off. I just don't do it when I'm working. And so they got used to me being that guy that they could always depend on. I mean, if they asked me to work, I always said yes. And if they called me, I always said yes. If they asked me to stay later, I always said yes. If they, if I went in there to buy some fucking lunch and they were busy, I just jumped behind the counter and helped them out, And I had this really strong sense of obligation to everyone that worked there, because I know what it's like. It sucks. When you're in those busy rushes or whatever and you're shorthanded, it fucking sucks. So I tried to be that dude who would step up. And then I had a month with no fucking days off. And not only that, but while I'm there, I'm dealing with drug users. One person in particular, I won't say his name, I won't even say the position he's in, but everyone is 100% sure he was using meth on the job. And if you listen to the podcast, you'll know that I've been clean from meth for a year, September 1st. And I get really mad. I get really fucking mad and pissed off when I'm forced to be around somebody who's using the shit. Especially when he's running around like a chicken with his head cut off. We're supposed to be out of there by 11:45 midnight, and we're not there. We're not out of there until 3 o'clock in the fucking morning because he can't keep his head on straight. That type of shit. But where they really crossed the line with me here a month or two ago, about 2 months ago, somebody called me early. I sleep between 7 and 3. I have to have my set sleeping schedule. It's a set routine. The older I get, the more I need a set sleeping pattern. Otherwise, I'm fucked. I'm too tired, and I don't want to go to work. And that in the past has been an issue for me. And I've called in a lot with other jobs. So I stick to my sleeping schedule. Everyone knows it. I've told everybody this is when I sleep, between 7 and 3. And somebody called me like 3 hours early. They woke my ass up 3 hours early. I didn't even answer the fucking phone. I was like, fuck you guys. I checked the voicemail though, because I was already awake. They want to know if I'd come in early. And I'm like, no, fuck you guys. I already work. It's Friday night. I already work until 1 in the morning, if not later. I'm not coming in early. And then this was after I'm at the point now where I worked that month solid, and I'm getting maybe 1 day off a week. And so, excuse me. So I'm getting my day off, right? But they still want to encroach on my personal time by having me come in early on the other days. And And that really pissed me off. I was like, no, fuck you guys. I'll come in when I'm supposed to come in. So I just relax, I take a fucking bath, I'm chilling. And on Fridays, you're typically supposed to work 5 to close. If you're the closer, which I was the closer, I was supposed to work 5 to close. Apparently, they had scheduled me an hour earlier that Friday, which is not normal. And I did not know. My schedule rarely changes, so I don't fucking go over it with a magnifying glass every week. And so somebody called me 3 hours early, wake my fucking ass up to see if I'll come into work, and I said, fuck that. But nobody bothered to even call me, let me know I'm supposed to be there at 4, that I'm late. You can call me when it benefits you, but you can't call me, you don't have the fucking common courtesy to call me and let me know, hey, I'm late, and they had 40 minutes they could have called me, from 4 o'clock to 4:40. They could have called me to let me know I was late, and they didn't. I leave my phone at home, the phone with the minutes on it, I leave that at home. It's like a landline to me. I treat it like a landline. I don't carry it around with me. If you can't get a hold of me on Wi-Fi and I'm not at home, you're gonna have to fucking deal with it, right? It's where I draw the line in the sand, the personal space and shit like that, and so I leave the house at 4:40, and it takes me about 15 minutes to get to work. And apparently this guy, not apparently, it happened, this guy that I was just talking about, who was using meth and shit like that, he gets there at like 4:50, sees that I'm not there, and I'm already halfway to work, and he couldn't get a hold of me on the phone, so he took it upon himself to show up at my fucking house, to show up at my fucking door. I'm already almost to work, and I get to work and I find out I'm an hour late. Nobody called me, and now this motherfucker is at my house, like, to come collect me. Like, no, fuck you guys. This was a throwaway job. This is a fast food throwaway job. I got this job because it was convenient for me. It was within walking distance, and it started to become incredibly inconvenient. And so I was like, fuck you guys, I'm out. And I took like 3 weeks away from work. And I went back, and everyone agreed that when I came back, I was going to have a set schedule. And I told everyone, I was like, my days off, you have to act like I work another job on my days off, because that's how I look at it. I view it like I have another part-time job, and that part-time job is my fucking life. You know what I mean? That's the time I need to recharge, because, man, that job fucking sucked. It was incredibly stressful. A lot of bullshit, a lot of drama, a lot of people bitching about this and that, fucking a lot of people not wanting to put in any effort, a lot of people not doing their jobs correctly, They wanted me to be manager, and I almost let them talk me into that, and then I was like, no, you know what, I think that's a mistake. Why fix something that's not broken? I got something that's working for me right now. I don't want to take on the extra responsibility. I'm sorry, I just don't want it. Find somebody else. And then this Thursday, I had off, and one of my bosses, she acts like she wanted to be my friend. They all act like they want to be your friend, right? And so they got my Snapchat information, and they've had it for a while, and every single one of them, for the most part, has used that Snapchat as a way to get me to come to work. They, instead of trying to be my friend, outside of work, they abused that privilege, because they all know at this point that I won't answer my fucking phone. I've told them all I have a problem saying no, and my way of saying no is not answering the phone. On my days off, I'm just not gonna fucking answer my phone. That's me telling you no. So, and I've said this enough that you should know to don't even bother calling me. Don't even bother calling me. Unless it's a rare situation, but it hasn't been a rare situation. This has been an every week scenario. And they always got somebody quitting, or they always got somebody not showing up for their shifts. They're always fucked. And I took that responsibility on, and I felt guilty. I got to the point where, if I knew that they were being screwed over and I knew they were having a hard time, like, I felt guilty enjoying my fucking free time, and that really fucked with me mentally. It fucked with my mental health a lot. I got super depressed and I got super frustrated. And so when I came back, that's why I was so strict about drawing my lines in the sand. These are the days I want to work, and that's fucking it. I don't need any more to survive, and it gives me all the time in the world to work on my podcast and anything else that I want to do. It leaves me time to work on my writing. It leaves me time to develop a fucking social life, which I've been trying to. I've been talking to a super awesome girl. She only lives a half hour away. At a certain point, I would like to progress to the point where it's like, I can make a plan to go hang out with her and, not have to worry about extra bullshit. I can just focus on my life. I mean, everyone should be able to do that, right? I'm not an asshole because I don't want to give up my free time for them when they're not even willing to give up their free time to cover these shifts and shit like that. The fucking store manager, I worked there for 6 fucking months. Store manager never closed once. She worked one evening shift until 10 o'clock, and it happened to be the slowest goddamn shift that we had in a long time. And if you're going to be a store manager, I should see you all the time. On a regular basis. You should be there until 7, 8 o'clock at night. Not every night, not every fucking night, but at least once a week. That shows you give a shit, you're putting in the time, you're doing your job. I mean, and these managers, they feel like, being a manager doesn't come with any of that extra responsibility. I know it does. I used to be an assistant manager at a Pomida, and I know it comes with a shitload of extra responsibility. And if somebody doesn't come in for their shift, that falls on a manager. If you can't get anybody else to cover it, that fucking falls on the manager. And they completely disagree with that mindset. And it's just, so it would fall on me, or fall on the next victim that chose to answer their phone. And I was like, fuck that, man. So on Thursday, they're hitting me up, wanting me to come in because somebody didn't come to their shift, and now my day off is ruined because I feel like a piece of shit for not going in, and I don't want to go in. And I'm like, no, man, I shouldn't have to. And I felt guilty about it for like 2 or 3 hours. Well, earlier in the day, somebody had knocked on my fucking door. Well, I don't answer my door. Just like I don't answer my fucking phone. If I don't know you're coming over, I will not answer my door. I just won't do it. Especially after, the whole debacle with my neighbor and shit like that. I just won't do it. So I had no idea who was knocking on my fucking door. And I walk up to the gas station probably about 10, 11 o'clock at night. And I walk back. And as I'm coming in to the apartment building, my neighbor and his girlfriend are going into their apartment. The same neighbor that held a knife to my throat. And his girlfriend has to tell me, oh, hey, so-and-so was here looking for you. And that so-and-so happened to be one of the managers. And I was like, are you fucking kidding me? I've talked about this. You don't come to my fucking house. You don't ever, if we're co-workers or I work for you and you're coming to my house to get me to come to work, you're dead to me. You're dead to me. I had a supervisor do that to me when I was a security guard fucking 12 years ago. And I couldn't believe it then. that this bitch would come to my fucking door because I wouldn't answer my phone. I couldn't believe it then, and I don't believe it now. You know, I can't believe that somebody would have the fucking gall to do that. Oh, just go over to his house. Just fucking go knock on his door. He ain't doing nothing. Fuck you. Fuck you. Yes, I am. I'm doing me. I'm doing fucking what I need to do to stay sane, so when I fucking show back up on fucking Sunday, I can deal with this bullshit until my next day's off. So I wrote him off, man. I wrote him off. I was like, I've drawn my lines in the sand. I've told you what I need to remain a happy employee. You guys, time and time again, crossed my fucking boundaries. You show up at my fucking house. You abuse the privilege to be social media friends with me. And you guilt trip me on a regular basis. Whether you know how much it guilt trips me or not, I feel incredibly fucking guilty that I'm just sitting here and you guys are, you know, being ass raped basically at work. But at the same time, when I'm at work and I'm being ass raped, I don't expect anybody to go to somebody's house and be like, you got to go to somebody's house and make them come in so this ain't so bad for me. No, fuck that. That's sacred. You do not go to someone's fucking house. It's bullshit. I'm one of the goddamn hardest working people they had. Hands down. One of the best employees they had. But I'll be honest, man. You know, my performance did go down when I felt like I was being used or disrespected or underappreciated. You know, so yeah, like the effort that I put in went down. I still worked way harder than the average fucking employee in that place. Still. So yeah, I'm looking for a new job. I'm thinking about hitting up this place around the corner because I'll get tips. I'm not too worried about it. You know, it was kind of it's kind of a bad time. The timing's not bad. You know, I'm still trying to catch up on a few, or the timing's not good. I'm still trying to catch up on a few things, but I just can't deal with that place anymore. And they consistently cross my boundaries, and they have no respect for them whatsoever. And so yeah, I had fully intended on giving these guys a 2-week notice, maybe even a 30-day notice, and look for a new job. That was the intention. I was like, you know what, maybe I'll be here for the winter, and then once I have a car or something like that, I'll do the right thing. I'll put in my notice, and I'll find a job and do it the right way. But I feel nothing but blatant disrespect from these people, and they don't appreciate when people step up for them. They act like they do, but they'll say they do, but their fucking actions. You know, you tell me you want to be my friend and you appreciate everything I do for you, but then you're going to, you know, constantly misuse your privilege of being a social media friend of mine and use that as a tool to get me to work, or you're going to show up at my fucking door like a goddamn fucking lunatic. No, man, I ain't having it. So if you know of anything in the Little Falls area that's hiring, let me know. I'm not afraid of hard work. I'll bust my ass. Yeah, man, I've already got a couple ideas, a couple things in mind. You know, a few applications I'm going to put in later today online, so I'm not too worried about it. But that's that, man. So I feel like this episode was kind of boring. Just me bitching about shit, but I don't know. I'm not going to delete it. I'm going to fucking put it out there. If you like the show, fucking subscribe on fucking YouTube, Positively Insane Podcast. Go give my Facebook page a like and follow. Obviously the same name. Follow me on Twitter, Positively IPC. Hit me up with some feedback. Hit me up with some feedback, man, because I really do this. I really do this for the feedback. You know, for the comments. You know, like a post, fucking comment on a post, share a post, whatever. Send me a message, send me a question. Send me fucking topic suggestions. Whatever, man. Take it easy. Until next time. Peace.